This episode of The Best One Yet is presented by Autotrader. Find your next car on Autotrader.com. There are two types of families in this world, buyers and leasers. Are you buying your car or are you leasing it?
Honestly, Jack, it runs in families. I lease because my parents always leased, and their parents always leased, and their parents before them. I think it's in our blood.
I think it's true. My parents always bought. They didn't even consider leasing. So I'm a buyer too.
Well, our sponsor, Autotrader, has the largest inventory of new, used, and electric cars on the market. They say if you can see a car, you can find it on Autotrader.
And Autotrader has the most comprehensive selection of buying and selling tips for people in the thick of their car finding journey, like I am.
So, Jack, maybe there is a more thoughtful way to decide lease versus buy. So I'm checking Autotrader right now.
Wait, there's something better than genetics to answer this question?
All right, I'm typing it into my computer. And if you look at the car research and tools section on Autotrader.com, there are a bunch of articles about leasing versus buying.
Autotrader's got your back when it comes to demystifying everything in a chassis, so that when you finally do decide to lease or buy, you can feel good about that big decision.
Lease or buy, it's like the Starks versus the Lannisters.
Stay tuned for more on this question in a bit.
This is Nick.
This is Jack.
It's Tuesday, TBOY Tuesday, October 1st. And today's pod is the best one yet. This is a TBOY.
The top 3 pop business news stories you need to know today.
Jack, I'm checking the calendar. It's a September to Remember sales event happening on Wall Street, baby.
Stocks just finished their best September in 4 years.
Jack, markets just had their best Q3 in 3 years.
The S&P 500 is up 22% so far this year.
Yeah, to quote our buddies over at Lexus, it's a September to remember.
No pressure, October.
Oh, yeah, no pressure.
A lot of pressure, October.
Yeah, a lot of pressure, October. In the meantime, 3 fantastic stories for today's T-Boy. Jack, what do we got on the show?
For our first story, it's the port strike. Last night, workers on the East Coast and Gulf of Mexico went on strike.
It's a port-pocalypse.
Actually, don't call it a port-pocalypse. You're barely even going to notice this, and we'll explain why.
Jack and I crunched the numbers for you. Second story, what do we got, Jack?
As the MLB postseason begins tonight, the White Sox are at home after losing the most games in Major League Baseball history.
But there is a business lesson on the worst team in baseball history. How to not turn around a team.
And our third and final story. DirecTV just acquired its rival Dish Networks for only $1.
$1! So Jack and I can tell you how a huge company was just sold for a $1 bill. Actually, it was 4 quarters. I think they paid 4 quarters, Jack. They just dropped it off with the lawyers.
I think it was a symbolic financial Venmo request, actually.
Yeah, it was basically just a Venmo request. 100 pennies. You know we're getting that.
But Yetis, before we hit that wonderful mix of stories.
What a fantastic mix of stories for T-Boy Tuesday. Love the mix, Jack.
Are you looking for a good time?
Jack, how about a good clean time?
Because the cool new place to party these days is your local laundromat.
We repeat, laundromat owners are transforming their businesses from laundry into leisure.
And it makes sense, because think about it. You're spending like 3 hours during the wash and dry cycle. Why not have fun while you're at it?
Oh, the Wall Street Journal just interviewed some laundromat owners who are adding amusing attractions to their businesses to gain a competitive advantage.
For example, one laundromat in Philadelphia added a cafe to their laundromat.
You get some sauce on your pants, boom, you toss it in the laundromat, which is in the cafe.
Another laundromat in Brooklyn added a bunch of pinball machines.
Yeah, so you can play pinball like Tommy while you're waiting for that t-shirt to dry.
And another laundromat in Manhattan, they classed it up with live jazz.
I love this quote from the owner, Jack. You ready for this? Jazz clubs play for tourists, but jazz laundromats play for locals.
This is a epic glow up for the laundromat industry.
Oh, this is definitely an upgrade. I mean, Jack, your local laundromat is looking like more like a Chuck E. Cheese.
This is the biggest change to laundromats since fabric softener.
The French Laundry, the Michelin-starred restaurant up in Napa. Yeah, they're getting jealous.
They're jealous of Bucket of Suds, the wash and fold quarter-operated place over on Sunset Highway.
In fact, laundromats are so hot right now, even Beyonce is doing laundry at the laundromat.
That's right. Levi's Jeans just produced a commercial starring Beyonce.
And Jack, what is she doing in that commercial?
The whole ad features Beyonce cleaning her own jeans at her local laundromat.
So Yetis, forget going to a restaurant this weekend. Take your next date to the laundromat.
It's good, clean fun.
Literally. Jack, let's hit our 3 stories, baby. I don't have quarters. Whites and darks. Oh, the darks!
15 years before this song, two boys from the Northeast met in a dorm. They had an idea that caused a cultural storm. It's the best one yet, but the best is the norm. Jack, Nick, that's it. I don't even think they need to practice. 50%, that's a fat tip. TBOY City on your at list. If you know, you know, cause we ready to go. We can't wait no more, so just start the show. Start the show.
For our first story, at midnight last night, the ports on the eastern seaboard of America went on strike. This is a port-pocalypse.
Nick, we're not calling this a port-pocalypse.
I just called it a port-pocalypse, Jack.
We're going to jump into the numbers and show you you're probably barely even going to feel this.
Yeah, it's not a port-pocalypse, it's a port paradise. Is that what you want me to say?
No, it's something in between.
All right, it's something in between. We'll explain. In the meantime, Jack, how about we kick things off with that wild fact you discovered about geography and the economy?
Get this. Maine has more coastline than California does.
We repeat, Maine has more coastline than the biggest state in the Union, California.
Because coasts don't form a straight line. And Maine has more nooks and crannies than a buttered English muffin.
I mean, have you seen Kennebunkport? It's like a chiseled little knife edge, Jack.
All those islands, Nick, they add up to a lot of coastline up in Maine.
As of right now, all of America's east and Gulf coasts have been closed to ships. You can't park here.
It's all because of the International Longshoremen's Association, which is a union representing 45,000 dock workers. They went on strike last night at midnight ET.
So from Houston to Mobile, from Miami to Norfolk, from Baltimore to Boston, the ports are closed, baby.
This is going to affect half of what we import by sea.
Half of the things we import, everything from bananas to bacon, coffee to engines, wheels. If it's got a chassis, it's probably held up at sea right now.
It's held up at sea because 45,000 shipyard workers are demanding a 77% pay raise over the next 6 years.
Like we said, it looks like a port-pocalypse.
I got more to say about that, but let's wait for the takeaway.
In the meantime, we know what you're thinking, Yetis. Why are the workers striking out there, Jack?
It actually has a lot to do with the couch you ordered for your house to glam up your apartment during the pandemic.
That's right, because during the pandemic, supply chain issues became a meme on TikTok. You know, like you were waiting 12 weeks for the toilet paper to arrive.
Why didn't you do the thing you did? Because of supply chain issues.
Supply chain. With ports and shipping routes completely clogged during the pandemic, ships sat out in the ocean just waiting for weeks to dock.
Oh, and then came the worst parking job ever by a cargo ship.
Oh, totally.
Remember it got stuck in the Suez Canal, blocking ships for 6 full days.
Oh, and Jack, it didn't stop there, because most recently we had Houthi rebels in the Middle East shooting at ships in the Red Sea, and then the ships couldn't continue on to deliver stuff to America.
In each of those shipping crises, the shipping companies use the crisis as a reason to jack up prices.
And now, Yetis, if you're not sitting down, you're about to stand up and sit back down again. Jack, can you please share the wild shipping profit numbers?
You know Maersk, the giant cargo ship company?
Huge.
If you're in New York or San Francisco, you see these enormous ships.
I can see one right now. I'm waving to him in the harbor, Jack. There you go, by the bay.
Profits at Maersk 10x'd in the 2 years of the pandemic.
We repeat, Maersk's profits grew by 10 times in just 2 years.
Profits were $3 billion in 2020 and $30 billion in 2022.
And therein lies the problem, because despite the record profits, worker pay over at Maersk did not change.
So the port workers who are unloading and loading these cargo ships, they want a piece of that record profit action.
And that's what led to a stalemate last night, which comes at a politically sensitive time because nobody wants more inflation.
Probably going to be a subject of the debate in the debate tonight.
Jack, your mango smoothie, it's going to cost a little bit more next week. So Jack, what's the takeaway for our buddies who are everyone in the economy?
This port-pocalypse actually won't be that bad, because this isn't the port's first rodeo.
Yetis, those major shipping disruptions that we just mentioned, the shipping companies, they remember them too.
And since this strike was expected, they've been preparing for months to handle the disruption.
Yeah, knowing a strike was likely, the importers canceled cargo coming by ship weeks ago.
Nobody wants mangoes spoiling in the harbor because there's no ship dock workers to unload them.
And they also prepared by finding alternatives. Like what kind of stuff, Jack?
One company spoke to the Wall Street Journal about already switching their cargo from sea to air.
That's right. This one company is flying 150,000 pounds of asparagus from Peru to America by airplane.
And it only adds 50 cents per pound to the cost of that produce.
Now, we should point out 50 cents more per pound, that will have an economic impact. And JP Morgan thinks this strike will cost us $3.8 billion a day.
But Nick and I crunched the numbers.
Yeah, we did.
If the strike lasts for 1 month, which it probably won't, it will reduce GDP by less than half a percentage point.
That's it. So the pain, the way we see it, it won't actually be that bad. This isn't the port's first rodeo.
Instead of panicking, they prepared.
For our second story, the Major League Baseball playoffs begin today, but the Chicago White Sox will not be there.
Because the White Sox had the worst season in baseball history.
The worst.
And we found a business lesson in all that losing.
Jack, the 2008 Detroit Lions, they lost all 16 of their football games.
The 1972 Philadelphia 76ers, they lost a record 73 basketball games.
We'll add the 2024 White Sox to the list and put them at the top of the list.
The top of the list of the bottoms.
Because the White Sox of Chicago are the losingest team in Major League Baseball history. And from what we can tell, entire sports history.
They lost 121 games this season.
Jack, can you sprinkle on some context?
That's one more than the previous record holder, the New York Mets, who lost 120 games in their inaugural 1962 season.
What Jack and I are saying here is that the White Sox were so bad, they made the Mets look like the Yankees. The White Sox are winning at losing.
But Nick, what's the worst part about this worst team in baseball history?
Well, Jack, the worst part about the worst team in baseball history is that their ROI was even worse.
The White Sox had a $130 million payroll.
Yeah.
Which is decently high. Like, it's higher than 5 of the teams going to the playoffs.
Yes, the White Sox spent $130 million and ended up with a record-setting number of losses. Even shoeless Joe Jackson is kind of embarrassed right now.
I don't even think Obama can pardon this team. He's a White Sox fan.
So, Yetis, this is what Jack and I found fascinating about this story. Sports are a business. So we were curious, how did a team spend so much money and get such a bad return?
Even more wild is that the White Sox owner is the same guy who won 6 NBA championships with the Bulls in the 90s.
And Jerry Reinsdorf, the same guy who made the Bulls unstoppable, just made the White Sox unwatchable.
Well, the White Sox decline began 8 years ago.
It did.
When the suffering team launched an ambitious turnaround plan.
That's what's so crazy. They were trying to turn the team around 8 years ago.
They traded their top 2 players 8 years ago in return for 6 top prospects. It was a bet on the future.
It was an investment in potential.
But it was the wrong bet. Of those 6 players they got 8 years ago, all of whom were potential superstars, only one is still on the team.
And what Jack's saying here is that the White Sox traded their best players for what turned out to be bad players.
But Nick, a bad HR decision with regrettable roster moves, that wasn't the only thing that led to 121 losses.
No, it wasn't their only mistake. So Jack, what's the takeaway for all our buddies over at the Chicago White Sox?
Don't just learn from the best, learn from the worst.
Yetis, everyone in business wants to learn from the best, the successful, the winners out there.
But we believe there's also something to learn from the worst, the unsuccessful, the losers out there.
So why did the White Sox turnaround fail? Well, because the White Sox didn't go far enough.
Successful turnarounds often require change in 3 variables: the people, the management, and the strategy.
Like when the Houston Astros went from a losing team to a winning team, they changed their players, they changed their management, and they had changed their baseball strategy.
When Abercrombie & Fitch turned their clothing business around, they changed their executives, they changed their teams, and they changed the product.
But the White Sox, the Chicago White Sox only changed their players. They only changed that one variable.
They kept the same bad baseball strategy and the same bad baseball front office.
So Yetis, add it all up, this is for anyone in business out there. The White Sox just had their worst season ever because they half-assed their turnaround.
Don't just learn from the best, learn from the worst.
Now, a quick word from our sponsor.
Yetis, as Shakespeare once asked, to lease or to buy? That is the question.
The car question. So Jack, let's dive back into that car search with Autotrader to answer the car question.
The answer? Kind of classic, but it depends.
Yeah, I actually read this article on Autotrader and learned that leasing can make more sense than outright buying if you put less than 15,000 miles on your car each year, since mileage is a crucial element in determining your car's resale value.
I love the mileage rule because it's so clear. I love road trips, do it like every weekend, but we're usually inside Vermont, so we keep the car at like 10,000 miles a year. I think lease is the way to go, despite my family lineage history of buying.
You know, you could just ask the car jack, do you want to be leased or do you want to be bought? Like, this thing can tell you, I think, at this point.
Whichever you do decide, buy or lease, you can personalize your financial experience with Kelley Blue Book My Wallet on Autotrader. Just enter your personal info like your estimated credit score, your down payment, or your trade-in value, and you'll get customized budget guidance to make it easy to purchase when you're ready.
So Shakespeare, you ready to get the car or are you ready for the ski trip?
The answer is both.
Find your next car on Autotrader.com. For our third and final story, DirecTV just acquired its biggest rival, Dish, for just $1 single dollar.
Dish was just sold for $1.
$1, $1, a single bill.
Nick and I are going to tell you how that is financially possible.
Because it actually is financially possible. But Jack, first, a moment of silence, please. The pager, the beeper, the Palm Pilot.
The floppy disk, the cassette tape, and Zach Morris's cell phone.
Yetis, welcome to the tech hardware graveyard. And we're about to take the satellite dish and lower it into the ground.
Dish TV was founded back in 1980 when space was reserved for NASA and asteroids. That's about it.
For the last 30, 40 years, you could beam MTV Punk'd down to your home from a satellite up in space.
Full disclosure, when Nick and I shared an apartment on East 14th Street in Manhattan,
great spot.
We literally had a DirecTV dish installed on the roof to catch that signal from space.
Our buddy Timmy kept going up and finicking with it, and I feel like he always messed it up, Jack.
Well, here's the news. Dish,
the satellite TV pioneer,
is getting acquired by DirecTV,
satellite TV rival.
Combined, this company is going to have 20 million satellite TV subscribers, making it the biggest pay TV provider in the whole country.
But funny side note, Jack and I should point out, these two companies tried to merge 22 years ago, but it got blocked by the government because they would have become too powerful.
Oh, they're not getting blocked this time because neither has anything resembling power in the streaming era.
But Yetis, this is why this story is so shocking. The most important number here is 1, as in $1.
Because that's how much DirecTV is paying to acquire Dish Networks.
$1, 100 pennies, 4 quarters, a single George Washington dollar bill. Doesn't matter how you cut the change, the whole company is being sold for $1.
If we saw that a media company with 8 million subscribers was for sale for $1, we'd pay that $1 and we'd leave a tip too.
$10, $50, we'd go up a few more dollars even.
We should confess, this is a complex deal.
Yeah, private equity firms are involved and AT&T does still own part of DirecTV.
But the reason DirecTV is only paying $1 is because Dish comes with $2 billion in debt.
$2 billion in debt. Yetis, DirecTV is inheriting that huge Dish debt, and that debt is due in November.
So DirecTV has to pay Dish's $2 billion in debt next month.
And that is why DirecTV is only paying $1 for the entire Dish company.
It's really $2 billion and $1.
They're going to have to drop $2 billion basically the day before Thanksgiving.
Talk about baggage.
I'm pretty sure that was in a Punk'd episode as well, Jack. Yetis, Dish is kind of like a broken car that's parked in some guy's driveway, not going anywhere.
It's listed for $1 on Craigslist because it's worthless without a new engine.
So, Jack, what's the takeaway for our buddies over at Dish?
When the going gets tough, the tough get merging.
Yetis, the number of combined subscribers for Dish and DirecTV, it's actually down 63% from their all-time high.
Because Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, Disney Plus, they all destroyed pay TV's business model.
Basically all the media stocks that you own stock in, Jack. You're going to have to do a little disclosure at the end of the pod.
Cord cutting isn't even happening anymore. It's mostly cord nevers at this point.
You know what? People paying $100 a month to Dish and DirecTV for the pleasure of commercials, a satellite dish, and a box are over 65 and living down at Del Boca Vista.
Dish is a sinking ship, and it's getting bought by another sinking ship.
And that's something we see in other industries. When two ships are sinking, they get together. When the going gets tough, the tough get merging. Jack, could you whip up the takeaways for us for TBOY Tuesday?
45,000 ship dock workers are on strike across the East Coast, and it affects half of the imports we get by sea.
But don't call it a port-pocalypse, because these ports, it ain't their first rodeo.
For our second story, it's the Chi Sox. They lost 121 games in Chicago this season.
121.
They're a lesson in half-assed turnarounds.
Everyone wants to learn from the best, but we should also learn from the worst.
And our third and final story is DirecTV. They're buying Dish for $1 because it comes with $2 billion of debt included.
When the going gets tough, the tough get merging. I think they said that on Wayne's World, Jack.
Excellent.
Most excellent.
But Yetis, this pod's not over yet. Here's what else you need to know today.
First, the biggest bill to regulate artificial intelligence was just vetoed by the governor, Gavin Newsom of California.
The bill, which was passed by California's legislature, would have required testing of AI models, it would have held tech companies liable for their AI, and it would have required a kill switch.
Yeah, physical kill switch, like a button physically at Google or Meta or wherever that would turn off the AI if the AI tried to kill us.
It's like a human physical solution to a very wild digital threat.
It'd actually be kind of cool to have a big red AI button, but we won't be getting one soon.
The biggest tech since the internet continues basically unregulated.
And second, Governor Tim Walz debates Senator J.D. Vance tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern from Manhattan in the VP debate.
CBS says they won't fact check the candidates. Instead, they'll provide a QR code on screen that you can scan to get fact checks.
Which no one will scan. And finally, Francis Ford Coppola, the legendary director, has got a new movie, Megalopolis, but the numbers show it's a total flop.
The legendary director of The Godfather spent $140 million of his own money to produce this new film.
And Jack, how much money did the film bring in this weekend?
$4 million, which is really tiny.
Jack, I read that he actually bought an entire hotel for the whole crew to stay at extra for filming this thing.
Should have bought a whole marketing team.
Also, we should point out, Apocalypse Now was another big movie by Francis Ford Coppola. That was expected to be a flop, but then it became a hit. Now time for the best fact yet. This one sent in by Dan Spengeman from Oceanport, New Jersey, but this is actually a correction.
On yesterday's pod, I mentioned both megabits and megabytes when referring to United Airlines airplane Wi-Fi.
Yeah, we were talking about the Wi-Fi wars in the skies, and we said megabits and megabytes, but there is a difference to the megabits and megabytes.
Internet speeds are typically measured in megabits,
with a big M and a little b,
rather than megabytes,
which have a big M and a big B.
So bits are a measurement of speed, bytes are a measurement of storage.
And in this case, we should have been talking about
speed.
Megabits.
Megabits. I can't promise I won't make this mistake again.
It's like that one vowel is really messing with us, Jack. Yetis, you look fantastic for TBOY Tuesday. And by the way, Jack and I, we're whipping up a little something special for you tomorrow. We decided to do something a little different for you.
Tomorrow, we're publishing our live hotline episode we recorded in Seattle about money, money, and money.
Yeah, we interviewed Tori Dunlap, who's got 5 million financial followers, and she's who you talk to when you want to talk about money.
It was a wonderful conversation.
Lovely.
Tori was incredibly insightful.
Had a blast.
She was also really funny.
I mean, we talked about birthday business bonuses. We talked about how to negotiate a bill, any bill. And there's like a funny story between Tori's dad and my son. It's a good one to stay around for.
It's going to drop right here on your feed. And Nick and I will see you Thursday with our regular programming.
Until then, celebrate the wins. And Jack and I will see you on the pod. And before we go, an extra special, super fantastic shout out to our buddy Nick Clausen in Grand Junction, Colorado.
He got his HR department to turn sick days into freedom days.
Yeah, he T-boyed his company.
That was a challenge we made on our pod about sick days versus vacation days.
Just make all of the days freedom days instead of sick days and vacation days.
Well, Nick Clausen jumped in T-boy style and got it done.
Not too shabby. And a happy birthday to Alexa Marino from Chicago, crushed it in New York, and now living it up by the beach in San Francisco.
Happy 9th birthday to Oliver Montilla in Orlando, Florida, who video game codes, who flies drones, and who sous chefs with his dad.
And Ivan Nichols in Brooklyn is turning 38 and spending the day at the spa in BK, baby.
Happy 9th birthday to Shai Lynn Ward in Warsaw, Missouri, who's breathing that Ozark mountain air.
And happy 100th birthday to Jimmy Carter, the first American president to hit 100 years old.
Happy 30th birthday to Nick Simpson in Ashbury Park, New Jersey.
And a happy birthday to Chi Tran in Palo Alto, California, a pediatric audiologist over at Stanford, celebrating with a big birthday bash.
And a huge shout out to Jin Huang in Toronto, who is launching a new venture after a whole bunch of hard work.
It's the grand opening of the Tales Farewell, a pet funeral and memorial services that any parent would care about.
And to anyone else celebrating something today, make it a T-boy.
Celebrate the wins.
This is Jack, and I've got some disclosures to make. I own stock of Levi's, Abercrombie & Fitch, Netflix, Disney, And Nick and I both own ETFs of the S&P 500.